Right. Thank you. First item on the agenda is DevNet updates. We had DevNet 7 launch late last week, I think. Could we get an update from Stefan?
Yeah, sure. So DevNet 7 has been going through different kinds of testing. One of the most recent ones that we are experimenting with is withholding payloads from the builder. So a lot of the blocks have been orphaned, and we've noticed quite a few different issues, as well as the builder has been patched in a way that it overrides the gas limit header, which has caused some issues today. In general, we noticed that the PTC votes for blobs seem to be not considered if the payload isn't there, and the PTC vote for blobs should always be considered as a liveness check independent of the payload. I think that's something that clients are looking into now. And otherwise, we have quite a few bugs across the board and improvements that we've posted in reports. It would be good to maybe get some feedback if the reports have been helpful in the way that they are presented, or if there is something that we can do to improve them in the future as well. I don't know if you have anything to add, Perry.
I think the main thing to add is that we've been using two tools so far. So we have the builder itself where we can delay some payloads, and the other one is TISM. I think TISM's scenarios have laid down in the Steel Discord. It seems like we're causing more issues with builder than with Prism right now, with TISM right now. But yeah, mostly intrigued to hear from client devs how the debugging is going and if anything useful was found in the last days. Terence mentioned they found some Beacon API performance issues.
Yeah, we found some issues that builders were not actively trying to delay payload, but we received the payload late, which is a little funny because it uses Prism to propagate the payload to broadcast over the network. But we had a performance issue such that even though it released on time, it still took 2 seconds for them to propagate it, and it showed up late. So we were able to find that.
Nice. Did someone from Prism have a chance to have a look at the double vote issue?
I just saw it. I have not.
Okay, cool. Yeah, any other client teams? Anything worth mentioning from debugging efforts, or are people just basically heads down with still triaging and stuff?
I have a question about Terence, what Terence just said. Is the delay only seen from Prism API, or there are other builders publishing using different bigger nodes that doesn't have the same issue?
Yeah, so to clarify, there was 3 builders total, And the only builder zeros based on our categorization, we look at all the logs. Only builder zero are are sending payload apparently revealed on time, but PTC sometimes voted majority late. But builder one and builder two are always on time. So turns out builder so that was a clear pattern that only builder zero had the issue, and builder zero was only using Prism Beacon API implementation to propagate payload.
Okay, nice. Anything else for Glamsterdam DevNet 7? Since we have the SSE changes in, has anyone noticed any degradations in performance or anything else worth mentioning with progressive stable containers? Okay. Cool. The next item on the agenda is Glamsterdam. Yeah, Terence?
Regarding stable container, we only have 3,000 active validators, and typically validators are the heaviest part in the beacon state. So maybe maybe it's not enough to see if there's like such performance bottleneck with changes like stable container, right? We probably want to ramp the validator count up and check again. We have
Yeah, that's fair.
5,000. Yeah, yeah. I do mean the active validators. Yeah. Oh, I see.
Yeah,
Okay,
we have
so
a bunch in the exited already. So we started doing this trick where in the Genesis state, we just shove a ton of exited validators.
okay, maybe we should let this run longer then, because I do have cron jobs that actively capturing profiles, and so far it hasn't been any bottleneck, but maybe I didn't capture them at the right time when there are tons of validators in there. So maybe keep it longer or something.
Yeah, okay, sounds good. Also DevNet 8, we can just have more active validators as well. Yeah, next item on the agenda was regarding the Beacon API changes that was brought up on ACDT on Monday. Can someone summarize the discussion or current status? This was about Beacon API changes for produce block v4, as well as the key manager API changes, like the whole topic in general.
Hi, I've been working on three of those PRs, also for the Builder API, just to keep them in sync. I think there was some sort of divergence, and yesterday some clarity around adding proxies as more of a first-class thing and removing that. And as of last night, the PRs are all updated to remove those. I think what isn't added to it yet is discussion. There's been discussion around the timeouts in the headers and uh, default values for the clients, which I guess wouldn't make it into um, the headers would make it into the Builder API, but the defaults would be up to the clients. But I think there's been a lot of node operators like DBT teams looking at the specs, but I don't think there's still rough consensus.
Okay, nice. Is there anything other than just a bit more time required for rough consensus to arrive, or is there a specific blocker by any chance?
I mean, from a SSB side, as one of the DBT clients, we at least checked out the 6.25 PR, and we're compatible with that. So happy if it's merged whenever. Then yeah, Jason's PR for like 6:30 would be Also great to get more client teams to look at it. So we're basically adding like an ahead of time submit builder preferences beacon endpoint. And that would be cool for DBT clusters that we can do our like threshold signing and auto submission for this new request off V1, like in the epoch before the proposal, like before the block proposal. So that way, it gets off of the hot path, which would be quite nice. I think so far, um, let's say Lodestar and I think Prism have taken a look at the 630 PR. But yeah, if we get more client teams on it, that would be great as well.
Nice, thank you. Yeah, I see there's a ton of discussion going on the EPBS channel. So if anyone's interested, then please chime in. I think the relevant parties are mostly DVT providers, anyone relying on the key manager API, and so on. And yeah, to Terence's point, maybe the soft deadline can be Monday, where we would merge in all the changes. Let's say latest at ACDT, so we still get some synchronous time, and then we can merge immediately after. The main reason for, let's say, Monday as the deadline is that once the merges are done, clients can work on implementations and we can target DevNet 8 the week after. Does that feel like a reasonable timeline? Okay. Yes. Nico's question is about the circuit breaker. Do all clients have circuit breaker implementations? Maybe could we go client by client and just talk again about where you guys are on implementation? Do you want to start, Nico?
Yeah, I think our implementation is pretty much finalized. We had some more discussions, for example, if we should consider only our canonical branch or all branches. So right now we consider all branches and track missed payloads there. Yeah, but it's pretty much final. It's already on DevNet 7. So we are just ironing out some few details.
Okay, great. Anyone from Prism?
Otis was just looking at it. I think he just joined. So, Otis, any updates on the circuit breaker?
Oh, there is no on the circuit breaker. No, on the DevNet, yes, there seems to be some peering problem again. Just a simple restart keeps the nodes in sync, but for some reason, and it's hard to see why we were isolated because there's a lot of invalid payloads floating around. But yeah, Prism nodes fell out of sync when they were just isolated and they couldn't just sync anything because they didn't have any peers. And just a simple restart that makes them catch up quickly. So it seems to be again just a peering issue. I haven't found the reason why we are downscoring our peers, but it's going to be hard with all these invalid payloads.
Okay, that's fair. Thanks for the update. And yeah, I guess circuit breaker implementation stuff would it be done by DevNet 8 or what's the plan?
Yeah. It should be done. I'm sorry, I'm delaying that.
Okay, cool. Do we have someone from Teku, Enrico, or someone else?
I leave it to Mehdi, who implemented it. Maybe it's not. It's still in mute. I know we merged the PR. I don't have specific details. So yeah, we have something. I don't have much more details.
Okay. In Nimbus, do we have Tursek or Etan or someone else?
Yeah, Nimbus does. We have our Fusaka, of course, version, but no, we do not have something yet for Amsterdam. It's a priority.
Okay. Lighthouse. Okay, I don't know if some of the Lighthouse is on today. Grandine, Is anyone there?
Yeah, we also
Yeah.
don't have a updated version for the glass. We only have this previous Fusaka version, so we will work on that at some point soon.
Okay. So I guess that we should add it to the spec sheet for .NET 8 so that we have beacon API changes and hopefully circuit breaker changes as well before we launch .NET 8. Okay, any other Builder API and or Web3 sign-up PRs to be discussed? Great. I did want to leave a note that Tony has a message on the block level access list channel, mainly flagging it because there's some engine API changes. I don't necessarily think CL devs need to engage on anything there, but probably worth keeping an eye out. And the last item on the agenda for Glamsterdam is on ACDT on Monday. There was intent from the testing teams to SFI all the EIPs that have been been included in DevNet 7. Is there any objection to this? Okay. If that's the case, then we'll go ahead and start creating the EIPs to SFI the we'll go create the PRs to SFI the EIPs. Anything else Glamsterdam related?
I created the DevNet 8 spec sheet. I shared it again if clients want to have a look or people want to give some feedback.
Right. Thank you. I think timeline-wise, we're still looking at DevNet 8 early August. We would want at least one public-ish DevNet and a non-finality DevNet, both ideally in August. And that should still allow us to potentially have the first testnet in September, just to have everyone in the know about the timelines we're trying to target at least. Okay, next item on the agenda is Hegota. Do we have Sukun to talk about bundled attestation propagation?
Hi.
Hey, yeah, you have the floor.
Yeah, so I have the EIP. I have linked it in the issue. I'll share it here in the chat. And I also have consensus specs related to it. And I have a draft implementation in Prism as well. So I basically talked about it a few ACDCs ago. The idea is to deduplicate attestation data and so to save bandwidth. This helps in the future with decoupled consensus a lot. And the nice thing here is that basically I've kept all the changes to a minimum. So because anyway, the objects that we vote on will change for decoupled consensus. So I've not made such large scale changes. And it should be fairly easy to implement. So I would like to propose it for Hagata. And like if people need any other information, I'm happy to provide them. But otherwise we can like keep discussing on the EIP or the consensus specs.
Are there any open questions from the clients about this?
Not yet. I would like, yeah, basically, I think I have 2 more weeks. So I'd like to highlight it to all the client teams and they can reach out to me for any questions they have.
Okay, perfect. Any immediate questions from clients or should we move to the next topic then?
Also, just to highlight, like the change itself is backwards compatible. So this does not need to be for color, like to be posted. That's fine.
Nice. That also probably implies we don't need to necessarily ship this at a fork, right? If some
Yeah,
client
definitely.
implements it beforehand. Yeah.
Yeah, it is fully backwards compatible, and it really should not impact if a client ships it before, also it should be fine. So it follows the same thing as the data columns work that we did. And like, yeah, so we would also get some sort of confidence on the partial messages system by then when we ship data columns.
Yep, makes sense. And yeah, like Daniel mentioned, I guess we can make it required for Hese if we do intend to ship this, so that worst case, we know on the networking level, everyone has it post 8-star.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah, that's fine.
Cool. Yeah, please engage on the EIP if you have questions.
I will also share the consensus specs. So yeah, we could put comments there as well.
Right, thank you. Anything else on this topic?
Yeah, quick question from my side. This basically supersedes Roll's earlier proposal of batching at stations at source, right?
So that is an orthogonal change. If we do it, we'll have to change some of the data structures that we use here, but you can use both of them in conjunction. So if you batch at source, you can still use this with them. Like, yeah, they are orthogonal changes. Because technically,
Okay.
what Raul's proposal was doing was pre-aggregating at source, and what this does is it just makes the network data structures more efficient, so that we save bandwidth.
Yeah, I'm just wondering if there's still value to batching at source if basically everyone can at least bundle them, but that we can discuss some
Yeah,
other time.
sure. I think that needs to come from simulations, so yeah, we can take that up.
Awesome. Anything else? Any other comments or questions from client teams? Okay, thanks. Thanks, Sukun. Next item on the agenda is partial execution payload commitments from Tony. Are you on the call to speak?
Yes, hello Perry. Hello everyone. So this is a new EAP. I will post it into the chat. It's there right now. And this is an alternative to what I presented a few weeks ago on ACDE, namely an alternative to the late state route. If you remember, the late state route EAP worked where you basically replace the post state route with the pre state route, and every block would not contain the post state route in the header anymore, but instead you would commit to the output of the previous block, which is put into the header as the pre state route. So essentially, the earlier EAP, which was 7862, it did the original delayed state route idea, but this new proposal does it a little bit differently. Namely, if you look at the ePBS bit today, the bit commits to the block hash, and instead of the bit committing to the block hash, we would now unbundle the block hash and commit in the bit to all the fields that the EL block header contains, except the state route. This means you will post a link into the chat again. So yeah, the second proposal replaces the block hash with the
yeah.
state root.
We
Sorry,
need
yeah, go
to-
ahead, Perry.
Hang on for a sec.
Yeah,
yeah.
I
We
just
need to
get back to want,
streaming.
yeah, I just want to mention that we may not be able to continue the same streaming, so let's continue recording, and at the end, I will upload the full recording. Or Akash, if
Yes,
you can
sounds good.
confirm, I don't think it is possible, like technically, we can definitely go back and record the entire recording.
Yeah, let's just give them a minute to figure this out before we start back, Tony.
Okay, I'm fine.
I think we can go ahead and continue. We are recording, and after
Perfect.
the call, I will collect both of the recordings and upload it.
Thank you
Great.
so much. Yeah,
Thank you
go
very
ahead,
much.
Tony.
So yeah, TLDR, instead of committing to the block hash in a bit, we would commit to everything in the EL block header except the state root, which means the builder would include a bit with all the EL header fields. So it's already a commitment to the content of the block, because of course things like the transactions routes or the receipt route are all committed in the bit, everything but the state root. So the builder would then have time until he reveals the payload to compute the state root. And this is an EAP. So the idea comes from Francesco from EF's CKVM team. And the goal of the delayed state root EAPs is, of course, to give the builder / the prover more time to construct the proof. And we are still in the process of figuring out like which EAP is actually the better one. And I myself, I'm not super clear like which one we actually want to do. This later EAP comes with no delay for light clients, which is very nice, but at the same time, it wouldn't give you the additional 12 seconds to generate the state proof of the CKVM. So the CKVM proof would be split in two logical parts, which is the execution proof and the state proof. And with the original delayed state root EAP, you would have an additional slot for proof generation, at least for the state root part. And with this one, you wouldn't have that. But instead, you would have a little bit more time because you don't need to calculate the state root for your bit. You only need to calculate it when you release the payload. And that's basically it. I think there's still more input needed. I proposed the two alternatives, and we would probably only pick one of them, especially because the earlier one, the delayed state root EAP, would consume the later one. And the later one is more like a trimmed down version of it. And yeah, I'm very happy if there is any question. I saw Ethan is asking, what about block hash? POTUS is asking something about the SSZ route. Could you guys quickly clarify?
Yeah, just for the block hash, that spans over the state root. So if we remove the state root, we also have to remove the block hash if it's there even.
Yeah, exactly. We would so today the state root is not in the bit. The state is implicitly contained in the block hash, you could say. And now we would completely remove the block hash and instead move all the fields that the block hash commits to in the bit, which means everything in the EL header would move into the bit, but except the state root. So the state root would be the only field that we wouldn't replace with the block hash.
What about the receipts route?
Receipts route and transactions route, so the two execution outputs, they would still be in the bit. So you would essentially commit to the contents of the block, but without committing to the state. So everything is deterministic. You can't change anything. And to answer POTUS' question, it would probably just be a hash. I guess we could make it the SSZ route. Like I'm very open for that, but I think we can decide that as soon as we decided which variant of the late state route we actually want to do, if we even want to do any of them. To answer Ethan's question, this is a non-headliner proposal. it should be rather small, especially the one I presented today is like super small on the CL. The earlier one was only EL and is a little bit more involved just because it adds some complexity around reorgs, but nothing that is actually nothing that isn't figured out already. Yeah, POTUS?
Yeah, I have nothing against the CIP. It seems reasonable to me, but you'll want to have a little bit more detail on the CL side on how this is going to be validated. I mean, processing the bit is absolutely fine. If we have a hash or if we have a NZZ root, we can just check it. But we use the block hash on the bid on implementations to check when we're receiving a block if it's based on full or an empty. So that information now it's going to be off chain. It's not going to be committed in the bid. So we will need to modify the paths on how we check if when we receive a CL block, if it's built on top of full or empty. Perhaps the easiest would be to just add that bit in the bid.
Yes, this is a very good point, and I stumbled across exactly this too. So my thinking was that maybe we could use the parent block hash for that in order to still be able to tell if empty versus full, but just using the bit's parent block hash
Yeah,
and
but
making sure that
you can always commit to the parent block hash in the bid. That's going to be, I guess you're still committing to it. But the problem is that if you're building on top of full, then the parent block hash is a block hash that is not known purely from the CL side. So we will need to get the block hash on the, so I assume that the easiest would be to have an engine API that when we send new payload, it returns back what was the block hash so that we can actually store it locally. So when we receive in the next block with the parent indicating a parent block hash, we already have it in Fortress to see, yeah, this block is based on full.
right. Yeah, this is great input.
Just on that point, would the execution payload envelope not contain the block hash?
You can, but then again, we will need to validate that the block hash on the payload envelope is the block hash computed on the EL. So either way, a new payload call should return the block hash or should validate that the block hash that we provide is the block hash that is claimed in the envelope.
Correct. Yeah. If I'm not mistaken, I believe the engine API may already be doing that, but I need to double check.
Yeah, this is great input. It would be also what Ethan is saying something in the chat. It would be great if you could look up the EAP. It's still not merged, but I put a section in there regarding exactly this problem because I saw the block hash was used for full versus empty decisions. So it would be great if you could take a look and see if what we are currently doing in the EAP makes sense or if something would have to change to make this work. Awesome. I guess we can take everything else that is unclear async. Thanks a lot.
Perfect. Thank you very much. Yeah, there's still some more maybe feedback about debugging and tooling aspect. Yeah, do you want to take these topics async, Tony, or do you want to continue?
Just going through Dustin's question, seal being able to look block hash to them. Yeah, I think those are exactly some nitty-gritty details that we have to like iron out, like figure out like what would actually change. I guess the first decision we have to take is which of the two delayed state root EIPs actually gives us the properties that we want in the future for CKVMs, but of course, as well as builders today. Like the goal is not only CKVMs, but also to lower the barriers for new builders to enter, because building will become easier with that EIP. So yeah, there will be a few things to be figured out, exactly as Dustin mentioned it, around debugging, around tooling. And yeah, will be figured out along the way, I guess.
Um, Thank you. Yeah, please engage on Tony's EIP. He's linked it in the chat, and we have it in the agenda. Next item on the agenda is Kev's proposal for hash chain rundown. You have the floor, Kev.
Right. Thanks, Parry. Yeah, so EIP 8321, which replaces the BLS rundown contribution from each proposer with the pre-image of a published hash chain. This, as far as I could tell, was the original proposal, but we chose to go with BLS signatures. And the TLDR is that the process for registering your hash chain is similar to the BLS to execution change message that we had for withdrawal credentials. Yeah, so that's it. It's not super complicated. EIP, maybe famous last words. Yeah, any questions?
Could you maybe expand on why we need this EIP? Like, what does this enable?
Right. Yeah. So currently, BLS is not post-quantum safe. So we're basically upgrading the Randall mechanism to be PQ safe.
I would add that there are probably two ways I can see to do it in a post-quantum way. This is the simplest way. The alternative way would be to derive the Randall reveal from the epoch and some kind of private key in a deterministic way, typically via hash, and to prove in ZK that each time you propose your reveal, you have to attach a ZK proof to your Randall reveal, but it's more complicated. This proposal is, in some sense, much, much simpler.
Yeah, it makes sense. This also seems like the straightforward proposal to start PQifying stuff. Have any client teams had a look at this?
I think I sent it to POTUS, Sproul, Enrico. I'm not sure if Dustin, you've taken a look at it just yet.
Yeah, it's intriguing indeed.
So my first impression was on this, and I commented out there, is that we are introducing this mechanism that will, correct me if I'm wrong, anyway, allocate like 32 megabyte in the state, considering like 1 million validators-ish. And then you need to handle, for each validator needs to handle these new secrets, and you have to pre-build this chain. So there is a little bit of overhead in the state, plus in the cryptographic materials management for each validator, so that you need to have an additional secret to generate, and everything just for the rundown. And yeah, it was like a little bit uncomfortable to say that this was just a specific super specific use case to introduce a new security, like, a new cryptographic thing that will be only used in this situation. And if we want to introduce similar thing for a similar technique, we need to have a new a field in the state holding another 32 megabyte of data for each for the whole validator set to have the same feature but on a different protocol feature. So I was thinking if there is a way to kind of leverage the same technique for multiple things and introduce this new secret for each for validator and have a possibility to have multiple usage for the same new state and new secret.
Yeah, so it's definitely correct that this will basically need to commit 32 bytes per validator. So it's like adding 32 megabytes to the state. We can reuse at least the secret that's being created offline for one-time signatures, which is the current proposal for going PQ to replace BLS. I'm not super sure if we can reuse it for any other use cases. I haven't thought about that.
I mean, if you have the same secret and then you have two different domains in which you have the chain, so the chain will be. I haven't studied much the details of what would be, but I believe anyway the state you should have two different parallel chain for the same secret but a different domain. So the secret is the same, but then on the state you have double the 32 megabyte. So if we want to have instead a chain that is no more a chain, but you have a mix of domains, yeah, maybe it becomes much more complicated to make this state to be one and be reusable in multiple domains. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, I agree. I'm not super sure about the multiple domain aspect of things, but yeah, the way to reuse the actual secret offline is to hash it with some domain separator, but each one would introduce an extra 32 megabytes like per use case that you have.
Yeah, maybe Porter's next, and there's 2 or 3 comments for you, Kev.
So I haven't really looked into in deep detail, but my first feeling about all of this moving to post quantum is that everything seems to be like still in flux. And this particular change in Randau seems random. Randau, I mean, arguably the best use of Randau is choosing the shuffling. And if anyways, we're gonna keep BLS on the validator keys, the shuffling is still going to be vulnerable. So it doesn't matter what we do with Randau, the validator still can be cracked. So it seems to me that we're going to fix Randau, making it post-quantum resistant, but anyways, the only usage of it is not going to be safe. So it seems a bit premature. In particular, one of my favorite things about one of my favorite approach to go into post-quantum would be to keep BLS and just have those BLS keys being rotating so that we can just aggregate. Again, this is a sidetrack, but the thing is that if there is an approach that is approachable to keep BLS and make it post-quantum resistant, then we wouldn't need to modify Randau at all. So this seems premature to me.
Yeah, I can answer those questions. I think the first one is that you can't really make BLS post-quantum secure, right, or resistant. It's just not post-quantum safe. The question about why we should do it now, I think this is the open question as to whether we should do iterative changes to PQ or if we should try to do it all at once. Yeah, this is a question that it'd be good to get more feedback on to see how people are thinking about this. Gotti has, yeah, I guess Gotti's answered your question about rotating the BLS keys. Francesca also has a good point about if we can wait until the validator set is smaller.
Yeah, I think Francesco had a few questions, I guess. Why do this now when everything else is still vulnerable? Are we sure we'll be using Rundown in 3 to 4 years? And even if so, why don't we wait until the validator set is much smaller?
Yeah, I think it's a good point on waiting until the validator set is smaller. I can't remember the number or how long it would take to migrate over to migrate all of the validators over to using the hash chain Randall, but it wasn't a long time.
Okay, and just surfacing other sentiment-based comments. Historically, iterative seems to have worked better. But yeah,
sorry. Oh, sorry, POTUS, you disagree with me on what statement? I didn't.
yeah, do you guys want to move out of chat and into the call? POTUS?
What is it? I heard my name.
Yeah, do you want to move out of chat into the call? Or like summarize
Oh,
what's
no, no,
happening?
no. This is for a long. I mean, this is being discussed already in the post-quantum channel.
Okay. Any other comments or questions for Kev?
Yeah, maybe I'll just bring it up as again that yeah, the most important question or one important question here is whether we want to do this in an iterative manner or whether we want to try to do it all at once.
So
So
as a
I
feedback,
oh
please.
okay, sorry. I guess I certainly I'm firmly believe the iterative approach is I mean I think along the lines of what a couple of other people also mentioned is let's say I'll just say better subjectively, but I think the other dimension of this that's being brought up that is I guess in principle orthogonal is the question of um, and I think POTUS has brought this up as well, but a couple other people have. Is this how sure are we when we want something, let's say, Randall like in going forward? And that's I think a more I mean, sort of regardless of the, and that's a separate question than iteratively. You can iteratively introduce, as we've seen many times in Ethereum, something that's sort of obsolete when it's created. And I'm not saying this is that, but it's iterative.
Right. Yeah, that makes sense. So I think more clarity on things like whether we will have Randall in the future.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, this seems reasonable enough in terms of it, given that's a goal, but that's the conditionality.
I do wonder, to address POTUS's comment of enshrining before final approaches are decided, it might make sense to memorialize the straw map or whatever the post-quantum vision is from a broader perspective. And that way it can make how we kind of finalize and narrow down the iterative components for each iteration.
Yeah, maybe that's a good question for Kev. Do you want to maybe speak to how the Randall change that you're proposing would fit into the bigger picture?
Yeah, definitely. So one way to iteratively do it is to do hash chain Randall in H star. In I star, we do the public key registry. In J star, if we have decoupled consensus, we could do PQ heartbeat. And then K star or L star, we could do the PQ attestations. I split the heartbeat from attestations because if you're familiar with decoupled consensus, these are now separate things. And then
Does
yeah,
it
oh sorry. Sorry, someone was speaking. You can go.
does it make sense from an ACD perspective or just from a process perspective to because we are very adamant about headliner selections and doing a lot of that basically one fork, two fork ahead. And this feels like a very an important and I think critical change that we probably should look towards in order to ensure timeliness of meeting Q day. Should we do as a process perspective kind of a straw map selection or a headline planning or something we haven't really thought through or done before, but keeping in uh, along the lines of what we did with picking H star before two forks ahead. Do we want to start thinking more broadly about what PQ looks like as a broad perspective as an ecosystem, and then using that as an approved quote unquote roadmap that we can all kind of march to.
Right. Yeah, I mean, for PQ, I do think we need to think a bit more in advance. Like, it's not something that we can just do the fork before. So I definitely think some vision of how we're going to get there or what the end thing roughly looks like would make sense.
One important question would be which hash function to use in the hash chain, in particular, potentially Blake 3, as it seems for post-quantum attestations, hash-based XMSS signatures with Blake 3 are a promising candidate.
Ethan has a question about XMSS.
Yeah, like isn't that a stateful scheme, like where you have to write to disk every time you sign?
Yes, it's stateful, but you can use the Ethereum slot as the nonce in your signature scheme. You only need a nonce that you know for sure will never repeat itself, and this slot is perfect for this.
What about reorgs?
You can store it on yes, I guess you can store it on state that you, yeah.
You can always use as a seed the dependent root and the slot, for example. So as long as if you're finalizing, you're fine. If you're not finalizing, you just keep track of each fork.
Okay.
Are there any proposals to get rid of Randall? Maybe Francesco.
Well, definitely not from me, but I believe there had been in the past, like the cryptography team at the EF had worked on such things. I think Gotti can say more probably.
I mean, there are options, but they all sort of use either stuff that we don't have, like or don't like, such as time-based encryption schemes, which are questionable security, or threshold encryption style things, which always have the problem that it really does not give us dynamic availability. So for the use case where we use it to shuffle things, so there is not really much of an alternative that we have right now, unfortunately.
Okay, makes sense. Yeah, so I think we can probably assume Randall will be here in for a while. But yeah, the question about Francesco, your previous question about whether we should wait until the validator set is decreased. Not sure. Yeah, definitely something I'd like to discuss more. Maybe async would be better.
Yeah, that sounds like a good idea. I would assume discussions happen on the post-quantum chat on ACD, or where would you want people to tune in?
I don't know if there's a PQ channel in ACD. If there is, then we can do it there.
I think we have some. We can check.
Probably. Okay, cool. Thank you.
Yes, we have a channel called post-quantum. Awesome. Anything else on this topic? Great. Next on the agenda is EIP 8015 from Ethan. He wants to remove deposit and ETH1 data fields. You have the floor, Ethan.
Yeah, I mean, it's Terence's EIP. I only updated it to like to be rebased on Glamsterdam. So there is this old deposit mechanism that we used before Electra, where we were monitoring ETH get logs to get the deposit events, and that was later replaced like with this request bus. And now the proposal is to just get rid of the remnants of the old mechanism, like the ETH1 data, the deposit index, and so on. This is now possible because we have the progressive container without messing with the generalized indices.
Nice. Does anyone have questions or comments for Ethan? Great. Yeah, in general, it seems like a nice simplification. Justin has a question for you, Ethan. Would this reduce state growth?
It's, I mean, it removes fields from the state. So, but it doesn't, like it's like a fixed size, right? It has a fixed capacity. So it's not a lot of, like it's like O of 1. It's not something that scales with number of validators or something.
Thank you. Anything else Higota related? Otherwise, I do want to mention that the non-headliner submission window closes on the 6th of August, so there's still about 17 days. So please get your submissions in by then. Marius, you wanted to talk about the REST SSE spec, so please feel free now.
Yes, I posted a link in the chat to last week's ACDE. Unfortunately, I put it on the agenda and I didn't attend. And it's also mainly for the ACDC crowd anyway. The idea is we are rebuilding the engine API based on Reth currently, and there are a bunch of methods that we are exposing over the same port that the CLs are using that we would like to get rid of because we have to provide their REST SSD equivalent for it. So this, it's easier to look at it in the issue. The idea is there are a few that I guess we will definitely have a replacement for. like syncing get blocked by number or hash, and the chain ID one. There are a bunch that we could get rid of if we decide not to support the old ETH1 deposit path anymore, like block number, call, and get logs. So that goes into the same direction that Eden just talked about. And there are some where we have no idea why they are actually in. But those have been used by like they were referenced by Lighthouse in some capacity. So yeah, I would like to invite all clients to comment if there are any other methods that they really rely on over the engine API path that we need to expose. If there are things that they don't rely on that we can just get rid of. Yeah, that's basically it.
I would recommend also reaching out to like Helios and the Nimbus verified proxy folks, just to see what they need for the wallets that verify the
Yeah,
response.
no, but this is different, right? This is just on the engine API. This is not the normal JSON RPC API that is exposed to the wallets. This is purely for the communication between ER and CR. And these methods are duplicated between the normal engine API and the public REST API. So yeah.
I see. So the question is whether we can just drop them from the engine.
Exactly.
And can we retire the ETH1 deposit path? That's essentially the 8015 EIP that I just proposed.
Great. Any other questions for Marius?
Yeah, just to flag that the end state will also probably look different than what it is right now, but like with ETH syncing, get blocked by number, get blocked by hash, and ETH chain ID, I think those are the ones that we will probably keep. But they might be called differently, and they might have different behavior. So, for example, we could think about providing some more sophisticated result for syncing to tell the CL node what the EL is currently doing, which would be nice for other use cases as well, and so on. So the question is less which methods, but more what functionality does the CL need? Yeah, happy if you send me some messages about what your client uses, or we can discuss in the SSC channel on the R&D Discord. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you very much. I think that was the last item on the agenda today. Does anyone else have topics they want to talk about? Yeah, Pooja.
Thanks, Pari. And yes, this is the same item. I'm trying to bring it again for authors' attention. As it was mentioned earlier in the call, that testing team believes that all EIPs listed on Glamsterdam Meta Ape are now considered to be SFI. That means it is very close to the mainnet upgrade, the public testnet release. All the proposals are definitely way past the draft status. So I would humbly request authors to kindly take a look at the PRs which are already open and add your approval. Some of the EAP authors have already provided approvals, but because of the cyclic dependency on other EIPs, they are not being merged as review proposals. So kindly take a look at the list which is added on today's agenda and add the approval. And one final question for the testing team. Is it okay to consider that whatever is there in CFI are all moving to SFI and there is no removal from the present SFI list?
Do you mean everything that's in the DevNet? I'm just cross-checking if there's something. We just have to cross-check if there's anything that's CFI'd but not on the DevNet.
Yes, if that is the case, please do let me know. I have already listed the all CFI EIPs in the comment on the agenda, sharing the link right over here. Please do let me know. Oh, I'm sorry. That is another delete. I'm trying to share the right link, copy link. Okay. So this is the right link. Cool. So if there is any change, please do let me know. I am working with Joachim to make sure that all SFIs and all EIPs in the MetaEP 7773 are up to date. Thank you, authors, for your support. We really need it. Please add approvals.
Yeah, thank you. Potus, did you want to say something at the end?
No, sorry, it was technical. I'm asking on interrupt.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, Thomas, go ahead.
Yeah, just a question, Potus, like maybe about like your proposition about PQ, because I am reading like the chat conversation. I remember that on the post-quantum channel on Telegram, you mentioned some of your ideas about BLS signature and stuff. Our idea is maybe to formalize a bit more like a public key registry in a post-quantum way, EAP, soonish, let us say. So do we have like a document or a write-up of your ID somewhere so that we can analyze it a bit more in depth? I have seen a bunch of messages in the post-quantum channel, but not sure I follow exactly.
Yeah, so the problem here is that the main idea relies on the existence of an algorithm to create in a deterministic way, based on a post-quantum safe secret, pairs of BLS keys on demand in a way that is deterministic so that the validator cannot equivocate on this. And the existence of this system is based on a BRF. And of course, this is not my domain. So the core cryptographers at Off-Chain Labs are looking into this. And I believe they do have such a system in which the message is small enough that we can actually broadcast it essentially every few epochs. So that would make it a way into having BLS keys for attestations that are still going to be aggregatable by everyone and make them post-quantum safe, at least for a few minutes. So I'll ask them to make that research public, but I believe this is still part of the research.
Okay. Okay, thanks for the update. Please let us know if you have something or some update or some document or anything for us to read. Thanks.
Great. Is there anything else we want to talk about today? Okay. Thank you everyone for coming and see you next time.
Thank you. Bye-bye.